Alright, so let me show you how to cite a work of prose that you find in an anthology. Prose just means not poetry, so like an essay or a short story, and an anthology is a collection of smaller works all contained within one big book. You don't want to copy what I'm showing you here straight up because I might be using a different book from the one you're using. So just use this as a kind of a general template to help you. When it comes to MLA formatting for incorporating pieces of evidence into a paper, you have two parts. The first part is the in-text citation, and that's where you work a piece of evidence into the body of your paper for support. Let's take a look at a couple of ways that you can do that. Here's one example. In Pose the Cask of Amontillado, the reader knows that Fortunato, quote, shall not die of a cough, 15. When I read this out loud, you can hear that it's a complete sentence, and you hear that because I use a signal phrase. In Pose the Cask of Amontillado, the reader knows that Fortunato, so I didn't just jump right into my quote at the beginning of the sentence, I actually set it up with some kind of a signal. In this signal phrase, I included the author's name. Edgar Allan Poe is the one who actually wrote the words, shall not die of a cough. So I've acknowledged my author in my signal phrase. I then moved into the quote, in other words, the exact words that Poe wrote. And I ended it by giving the page number that Poe wrote this on. And I closed it off with a period. There's another more stylish way to do this. You don't always have to give the author's name in the signal phrase. You could do something like this. A key point of irony is the statement, quote, I shall not die of a cough, Poe 15. All the same information is here. It's got a signal phrase. A key point of irony is the statement. It then has a direct quote, and it gives the author's last name. It's just in this case, I put it in the parenthetical citation. Either way works fine. You choose what you like better. I like to mix the two styles up in my papers. Now, after you've incorporated evidence into the body of the paper, you need to make sure and include a works cited entry, and that's part 2 of the process. Works cited entry is where you provide the reader with all of the information so that he or she can track down the original work in the original text on the original page that you read it. It'd be crazy to try and memorize how to build every single type of works cited entry you'll ever need. Instead, just get used to using the owl at Purdue. That's what I use. So I'm going to jump over and do a Google search. Owl at Purdue, MLA. And if I was in a class that used APA, I would just type in APA here. The Owl at Purdue will help us out. So I'm going to go to the style guide. This is where it helps to know how to use a style guide like this, and it helps to know the textbook you're citing, or the type of book you're citing, or the type of source. So I'm under MLA, and I'm going to use, I'm working on an in-text, or I'm sorry, a works cited entry. So if I scroll down, in this class, we're using a type of book called an anthology. So I'm going to click on Works Cited page, Books. If you scroll down through here, you'll see it has all different types of books that you might be using in a class. And I'm going to go until I find the one that I'm using. As I said, I'm using an anthology, but I'm not actually citing the anthology. You see, Edgar Allan Poe's The Cask of Amontillado is a short story, and it's contained within an anthology. So there it is, a work in an anthology. The Owl at Purdue gives us a template that tells us everything we need to include, how we need to punctuate it, and what order we need to include it. So when I do my papers, I like to actually just copy this template and paste it in and build it one piece at a time while looking at my textbook. You can see here, I've actually given you a complete works cited entry already. That way you don't have to sit here and watch me type anything out. You can see we have Poe's last name, Poe's first name, the title of his essay or short story in quotes. We have the title of the textbook in italics, and then things get a little murky here. I included this weird third ed thing. The reason I included this here is because I'm not using a first edition, I'm using a third edition. And the way I knew to include that is because I didn't memorize MLA formatting. Instead, I looked carefully at all the different types of templates that the Owl at Purdue provides us, and one of them is for an edition of a book. I'm not using the first edition, my cover says third edition, so I look at this rule. Cite the book as you normally would, but add the number of the edition after the title. Well, I would normally cite the book as a work in an anthology. The title is in italics, and this rule up here says include the number of the edition after the title. So I had to include my edition after the title of the book. There's something else that I had to get used to doing. You see, the number of editors on my book is 4. And so I put the name of the first editor followed by et al. And how did I know to do that? Well, the Owl at Purdue gives us a list of ways to cite different books, including how to cite a book with one or more author, or in this case, one or more editor. And explains that you would use the et al. And here's the example of how to do that. Again, to memorize all of this stuff would be a waste of your time and energy. Instead, get used to navigating the OWL at Purdue and looking to find the right type of template. That's all I've done here, and I'm hoping that you can use what I've shown you in this video to help you cite the textbooks or the essays or the journals or whatever in this class and in all of your other classes. I hope this video helps. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email, and I'll do my best to help.